Hey guys, glad to have you back for this third installment of our series, This Is Us, where we talk with real students about their real lives and faith. Today, I've got Graham and Melody with me. They are both graduating seniors from our ministry, and we're going to talk a little bit about life and pandemic for them and all that they've missed in their senior year. So, right now, um, I've got Graham. Graham, thanks for sitting down with me.
Yeah, no problem.
How you doing today, man?
Uh, Day's all right.
Day's all right. Cool, cool. So, first question, what is life like for you during the pandemic right now?
Um, well, definitely not what I was expecting to be doing at this time of year. You know, the school system here basically said, "Hey, your grades look good. Go home. You'll get a diploma in the mail at some point. Uh, you're done." And so I went from playing soccer, kind of just coasting through school to actually going out and doing a little bit of work. Uh, just living the life.
So, if you don't mind, kind of what's talk a little bit more. I'm sure it's pretty hard to swallow and to grasp, or not to grasp, but to come to terms with the last part of your senior year just being gone. If you don't mind, would you mind talking about that a little bit more?
Well, the last part of my senior soccer season, I was really looking forward to that. But it's gone. And prom and graduation, all that. I was kind of looking forward to, and it's just up in smoke.
It is, man. Now, knowing you've had to progress right into, you say a little work, but you're doing you're doing quite a bit. Talk a little bit about that. What are you doing right now as far as work goes to stay busy?
Well, I mean, if anybody says, "Hey, I need a little bit of work done on my back porch," or "I need my pool cleaned," or "Hey, a tree blew down in my yard," all right, I'm on it. That's kind of what I've been doing for the past month or so.
So you've been kind of a jack of all trades for people in the community and people in our church, and I know a lot of those people are really grateful for that. As a matter of fact, I sent you on one just yesterday, so thank you for doing that again. I really appreciate your willingness to do that. But kind of bouncing off of that, we talked about how you're keeping busy in life with everything being kind of upheaved and shifted around. How are you staying active in your faith right now?
Well, it hasn't been easy, just because I haven't had a schedule whatsoever, or a routine. Uh, and so I've kind of been a little lax when it comes to my faith, and
Mm.
I'm trying hard to get back to uh, where I was, just reading the Bible and praying when I can. I get plenty of solitude now that or time alone now that everybody's cooped up inside. I'm out cutting down trees and stuff.
That's good stuff, man. And I'll say this as your youth minister, I just encourage you, man. Keep fighting that good fight. Keep working on that. And we go through spells. We all do. We go through spells where, you know, to sit down and have that quiet time or have that time with the Lord is harder, whether it be because of distraction or whether it be because of laziness or whatever we get into. We all have that. So I encourage you, man, just keep fighting that good fight. Um, and hey, when you're cutting down a tree, every time a limb falls, it doesn't take you out. Say thank you, Lord. So let's move on into your story, your testimony. So just talk with us about when you accepted Jesus's gift of salvation.
So I've been coming to church all my life. That old saying, I had a drug problem when I was younger. I got drugged to church. um, and so I always had a good idea of, I knew of God, but I didn't know God.
Mm.
Uh, and one day, I think it was around 12, 13, somewhere in there. I'm not too good with dates and times.
Me neither.
I finally realized like what it meant to accept Jesus and, you know, follow him. And so I went, I got baptized, and since then I've kind of realized, let me back up. Uh, for the next couple of years, I didn't really, go deeper in my faith. It was kind of just that surface level. I'm baptized. I'm good. Uh, well, in past 3-4 years, I've come to realize, and uh, that's not all it is. It's actually a change that you go through, and I started reading my Bible and praying and just communicating with God, and through that I've seen how I'm supposed to be living and how I should conduct myself through life. And yeah, that's about it.
Yeah. And you and I have spent a lot of time together working through a lot of that. So if you would just kind of talk about, how has your faith impacted your life?
Well, I I've gone through some things, as a teenager, some temptations and things that are unfortunately quite common for teenagers. No, it's terrible, but it's the truth. And I've gotten through those things because of my faith and just leaning on God rather than other things. And in that, I have tried to help people as best I can. Try and show God through that.
That's good, man. That's good. You talk about growing in that and trying to, essentially what you were saying is trying to be that example. So, and we talk about the change, some of the things that you've gone through and you've worked through in your faith. Who or what has been one of the biggest influences in your faith?
Well, I had I had my mom. She's the one that drug me to church when I was little. um, I I have my grandfather who's probably the best example uh, I could have when I was younger as to what a Christian should be and what all that looks like, and also had you kind of help me through the walk.
So, I'm not going to have you talk about me, show some humility. Um, Talk a little bit more about your grandfather, because you're not the first one to mention having that second generation, so to speak, example to teach you, what a godly man looks like. So, if you will, talk a little bit more about that.
Well, like my grandfather, he's always been there, showing me, like what what a Christian's supposed to look like. The old men you see at the coffee shop sitting around every day.
Yeah.
uh, he's always got his Bible with him in his truck, and if I ever need to go looking for him, I'm either going down to the city landing. He'll be sitting there reading his Bible, just yeah, having a good time.
That's having a good time. I know you say that, but I think knowing your grandfather, I think that's a pretty good way to put it, because he really enjoys his time with God and his communion with God. And I know you see that. I know that's what you're trying to say.
Yeah.
So thank you for sharing that. And I think that's something that I want to say a little bit on and pull out for those that might be watching is, this is the third video in this series, and everybody that we've had speak in this so far has talked about the examples in their life, those people that have led them to know God more and to go deeper with God, and what living a Christian life looks like. So I encourage you, if you don't have that person in your life, go find them, because that is pivotal to us growing deeper in our relationship with Jesus, and becoming greater disciples, as the term is, followers of God. So with that being said, that being asked, last question, with all this in mind, what message do you have for those that might be watching?
Well, for anybody who's out there during this pandemic and basically quarantine, I just want to say, if you're struggling with any temptations in this, idle time, stay strong. Try your best not to fall to any of that. I know it's hard, and this is just a temporary thing. It'll everything will change, and it's something that it's tough.
It is tough. Thank you for your honesty in that. Thank you for your genuineness there. And I hope what you've talked about today, the message that you've given, find somebody that needs to hear it, to be encouraged to just maintain their strength, to resist temptation, to follow God, to get into the Word, to get into prayer. It's not always easy. It doesn't just happen overnight. It's a struggle at times, and so it's okay to go through that struggle. So thank you, Graham. That's some really good stuff that I hope and pray those that are watching need to hear. If you're watching this, I want you to know that we do all of this, one, to give these students an opportunity to practice sharing their story and to tell their story about their faith in Jesus, but two, to encourage you in this time and to hopefully be a blessing to you. So I hope you're getting something out of this. And right now we're going to move over and we're going to transition into our next student. So we'll see you there. Hey, Melody, how are you doing this morning?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing good. Thank you for sitting down with me to do this interview and talk about your story. Are you ready to get into it?
Sure.
Sure. Okay. So first thing, just tell us kind of what's going on in life right now. What's life look like for you?
Basically, I'm still going to work. I still work in healthcare, essential workers type thing. But for the most part, I'm still staying home if I'm not at work and just spending time with the family.
Got you. I got you. So you said you're kind of in the healthcare. You're an essential worker. I know what you do, but just tell people what you do, kind of what you're dealing with day in and day out.
So I'm a pharmacy technician, which means that I count pills. And I actually encounter the coronavirus daily, and it's kind of nerve-wracking. It kind of makes you nervous, but it's the same old other than that.
Yeah. Well,
Still doing my job.
And thank you. That's what I was getting to, was to say, I know we've talked about it before, how nerve-wracking it is knowing not only the regular stuff you come into contact with, but something like the coronavirus that is so contagious. And I know, your workplace, the pharmacy's taking some precautions and all that, but thank you for being willing to still go out there and work and get people the medication that they need in this time. Especially people like, my wife, who's pregnant and she needs certain medications for her pregnancy. So appreciate y'all doing that. And, I think you've got a very unique perspective in that you do encounter this and other sick people on a daily basis. You're seeing that. And so I'm glad you kind of shared some of that. Maybe there's somebody else out there who's dealing with this, or maybe there's somebody out there who's just petrified of it. Could you speak to kind of some of the stuff that you've seen as far as people taking precautions? Like, what are you seeing that seems to be working for y'all at the pharmacy?
I personally wear a mask all the time when I'm at work. except for when I'm doing inventory, because it gets very hard to breathe and lift boxes at the same time. But I wear a mask other than that. I usually wear gloves when I'm touching other people's medication, just for personal preference. Not everybody does that.
Yeah.
But we do have some extra precautions, like a thick piece of plastic where the customers cannot breathe on us.
Yeah.
Or be able to touch us. Just an extra thing that keeps us less in contact, but with still being able to interact with them.
Yeah. And thank you for kind of just talking a little bit about that. I think that's the important thing is people need to hear that the few precautions that we can take readily for anybody, like a mask and gloves and washing your hands, it is very effective. Those things are very effective because you've been working in it almost on a daily basis. You're okay. You've not gotten it. No one at work's gotten it, to my understanding, right?
So far, no one's gotten it.
And we hope it stays that way. So basically just kind of showing everybody, the precautions do work. Not that it doesn't take the edge off, but the precautions do work. So thank you for speaking to that. Kind of taking a little bit of a break from the normal stuff. The other thing I want to talk to you about is you're one of my seniors. You're a graduating senior from our youth ministry. How's that been for you?
Most people, if you ask them, they're sad they didn't get to do all of the stuff that normal seniors get to do. Mm-hmm. But me personally, I have loved every second of not going to school. I've really been enjoying the time off before I go to college and
sure,
just being at home with my family, so it's not too cut short.
I get that. And that makes sense. I think that's completely valid. Not that my opinion matters, but I think that's completely valid for you because you're one of those that for a while you've known what you wanted to do. You've been working a lot of that out, and so your mindset has been on college for quite a while. And so this might be a welcome break for you and for some others out there. And I think it's okay for them to know that it's okay if that's where you are in all of this, if this is just a welcome break for you. But make sure you're still doing your schoolwork, right? You're getting that done.
I'm already graduated, actually.
Done.
Any senior that was on track to graduate has already graduated, unless you're failing. So I'm good to go.
Good. So you're pretty much
school graduate.
You're a full-fledged adult now, right?
Yes, except not really.
Yeah, not quite. There's still a few things, but you're on your way. Okay, so next question then. And we're stepping into the faith aspect of it. We talked about work, we talked about school, we talked about just life in general. What about in your faith? What are you doing right now to kind of stay active in your faith while having to stay socially distanced and not being able to come to the church building and meet with the body and all of that?
Me personally, I haven't had a whole lot of problem with it. I just have more time to do what I want to do, like read the Bible every day, multiple times a day, and be able to pray more frequently in the privacy of my home. And being able to watch TV is also a really cool thing I haven't ever been able to do. So I really enjoy it.
Yeah. So you're really taking advantage of the extra time that you have. And that seems to be a little bit of a theme with a lot of the ones in our youth ministry is when you were in school and going to school, that combined with work, combined with responsibilities at home was very time consuming. And those are all good things. And we should do those things and we should do them well. But, I'm hearing, and you're just another one who's talked about the opportunity to be in the Word a little bit more, to pray a little bit more, to take advantage of the time to be able to exercise that. And so that's encouraging. I hope, that message is what those that might be watching or hearing is that, you've got some time now So not that you have to become, a theology student during this time, but you can, where you struggled with time before, you have a little more time now to do those things. And so just do small things here and there to increase and to spend a little more time with God. And that's what I'm hearing you say. That's what I'm hearing all of you say. So I'm glad as your youth minister to hear y'all say that. That's encouraging to me that at least I've encouraged y'all to take advantage of the opportunities that are given you. So let's step into your story now, your testimony, and let's just start with your salvation. When did you accept Jesus Christ's gift of salvation?
I was probably 7 years old, if I'm remembering correctly, because that was a long time ago. And it was during VBS. I remember that. I don't remember a whole lot else.
You don't remember a whole lot else?
My dad baptized me shortly after.
Okay. So your dad, we'll kind of pull back the curtain a little bit. Your dad is a minister. You are I won't call you a PK necessarily. Your dad is our is our worship pastor. Does an amazing job in senior adults. I can't forget that. Our senior adults really does an amazing job here for us. And so you're one of those. Yeah, I mean, your dad had the opportunity to baptize you and to bring you up. Just kind of thinking back though, you were at VBS. You mentioned VBS. I think that's the same that a lot of people have in their story is VBS is kind of a place where they encountered a lot about Jesus, a lot about missionaries, a lot about the gospel. So for you, what was it about the gospel, kind of thinking back, that drew you in?
I think it was the fact that in Jesus's eyes, you were always going to be his child. There was nothing you could ever do that would bring you away from him, or he would stop chasing after you.
That's really good. Thank you for that. That's a good point. I really trust somebody needed to hear that. So kind of moving on from that, with that drawing you in, what have been some of the biggest influences on your faith?
Definitely my father, because I have been in church since I was adopted and never left. I basically lived there, especially when I was a child. I would definitely say my dad. I would say you, because you've been my youth minister for a while. Like 3 years? 2 years? Okay, something like that. But you've always been a huge part of our lives, and so has my dad, and just impacted my faith a lot, bringing it past high school into a different point in my life as college and soon after actual adulthood. So
yeah, it's coming soon, girl. And we have, we've had a lot of conversations, and I know you, with the influence of your mom and your dad and a lot of the other people in the church that have just doted on you and loved on you, we've watched you grow. We're excited about what God's got in store for you and where you're going to follow him in your life. So, kind of moving on from the influences in general, kind of how would you say your faith in Jesus has impacted your life?
To be completely honest,
go ahead.
I don't know where I would be. I'm sure I would have probably chosen a different profession. I probably wouldn't have the awesome job that I have right now. And I wouldn't have the parents that I do that influence that, and being involved with all the friends that I'm involved with through the church and being in the youth group. So
yeah,
I probably wouldn't have the same perspective on life either.
And there's a lot tied up in that. And you mentioned with the last question, your adoption. I think you have the opportunity here to go deeper into how Jesus was impacting your life even before you knew him, talking about adoption, the relationship that your dad had with your birth mother was, because of him following Christ and his work in the church. And then, like you said, there's a lot of other opportunities that have come directly tied to the impact that Jesus has had in your life from your parents and work in the church and things like that, all the way through the life you're living and the friends you have. You have a pretty big impact on a lot of those friends that I have seen personally. So I think mentioning a lot of that is pretty cool, that, maybe some people will start to sit down and think about all the different ways that Jesus was impacting them in their life that they've never thought of before, because you've got a lot of that in your life in some very impactful ways. So last thing, with all of this in mind, right? Corona right now, social distancing, everything, your faith story, the impact Jesus had in your life, what message do you want to give to those that might be watching this video?
I would definitely say use this time wisely, because you only get a pandemic every so often, so you better use it to further yourself in Christ and do his work. And people are still doing missions even now, just socially distanced. I encourage people to go out and find out what they are and do what you're supposed to do. Stay at home, wear your mask. Don't give it to me.
Yeah. Or me. And those are good words. You have that unique perspective, and I thank you for that. And that reminder, we need to be diligent to make sure that we're following safety precautions, not only for ourselves, but for others like you and your coworkers and things like that. So, Melodie, thank you again for sitting down with me. It's always a pleasure to talk with you and hear your story and what's going on in life. And I hope and I pray that your words and your messages here have touched somebody and encouraged them, or maybe even given them something to think about in their pursuit of Christ. So, Melodie, have a great day. We'll talk to you later, all right?